This podcast is brought to you by North Carolina's electric cooperatives.
This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
What a week this has been. What has been compared to a volcano eruption was the indictment of State Republican Chair Robin Hayes on charges of bribery. And we discuss how this is going to impact the party and our elections. Then we debate the implications of a judicial ruling that North Carolina's abortion law is unconstitutional. If there's time, we want to preview a proposed law making it illegal for our sheriffs to refuse to cooperate with ICE in detaining immigrants. And somehow we're going to find time to get our panel to tell us something we don't know. It's a packed show, but joining us on this week's panel are Tamara Barringer, former senator, John Hood, syndicated columnist and author, Rob Schofield with NC Policy Watch, and Brad Crone, communications consultant. We begin our uninterrupted debate after these brief messages from our underwriters.
Life's busy, but you're in control. As an electric cooperative member, you have access to lots of tools to help manage your home energy use and budget, so you can focus on what's most important.
Partners for Innovation in Healthcare. We're supporting common sense solutions for North Carolina's healthcare delivery system, promoting access, affordability, quality care, and innovation. Visit us on the web at pihc.info.
From treating the newest member of your family to helping a loved one make end-of-life decisions, your family physician is with you every step, for every stage of life, for every member of your family. Despite a healthcare landscape fraught with potential landmines, family physicians across North Carolina are providing you a lifetime of committed, dependable medical care. Family Physicians, your trusted healthcare advisor for life.
NC Spin is brought to you in part by the North Carolina Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau and Agriculture. We keep North Carolina growing.
Let's get started. On Monday, State Republican Party Chair Robin Hayes announced he would not be seeking election to another term. On Tuesday, Hayes was indicted for alleged attempts to bribe Insurance Commissioner Mike Cosby and for lying to the FBI. On Wednesday, Hayes announced he was stepping down as chairman. Brad Crone, longtime Republican political consultant Carter Wren, described this like a volcano eruption because you never know where it's going to lead. How is this volcano eruption going to impact the Republican Party?
Well, Tom, it's the biggest political scandal we faced in North Carolina since 2006 with the indictment of former Speaker of the House Jim Black, 2003 with the indictment of former Commissioner of Agriculture Meg Scott Phipps. This scandal, though, from news reporting during the week, indicates that it may be bipartisan. It looks like some of the monies that Lindbergh contributed went to the Democratic Party as well. So I don't think that just the tar brush will paint the Republican Party. It's going to paint the candidates that the money went to and the political parties.
The central figure in this, Tamara, seems to be a fellow named Greg Lindbergh, who is independently wealthy. He owns many insurance companies. According to the Wall Street Journal, has had questionable business dealings. In fact, the Department of Insurance was investigating him and coming up with problem areas as far as their financial reports and dealings. Lindbergh ended up being the largest political donor in North Carolina history when it was all over and done with. Shouldn't that have been a red flag to people?
Yes, Tom, it should. Anytime you get those large sums of money, you need to be asking questions. You just need to be asking questions. Also, if you're getting money from sources that you weren't aware had an interest in what you were doing, you need to be asking questions. And it's obvious that if the questions were asked, the answers weren't given or they were ignored.
Well, so Rob, what is the charge here? I mean, we read where he tried to bribe Insurance Commissioner Mike Cosby. What was it he wanted? Mike Cosby.
Yeah, Cosby. I don't think there's any doubt about what Lindbergh wanted. He wanted favorable treatment. He talked about actually having one of his employees come on staff. He'd pay him a little extra on his way out the door from his operation. Then he could go on staff at the Department of Insurance. I mean, it was a pretty blatant power grab and just such an obviously corrupt act that it's the fact that we now have recordings of it, we've got all the details of it. It's not looking good for Mr.
John,
Limber.
the specifics of it, Tom, was, I mean, there was a general probably interest in getting favorable treatment. That's true. The specific issue, apparent, and this has been happening in multiple states, is that Lindbergh's companies, his life insurance, as he acquired life insurance companies, he would use some of the assets of those companies to buy or invest in other things that he owned. You can allow a little bit, in most states, I think the cap is 10% of your assets of a company can be done. In North Carolina, for a time, they had allowed that to go up to 40%, up to 40%, and under Mike Causey, apparently they were asking questions and not necessarily being as permissive. And this is, I think, literally specifically what Lindbergh wanted is a different person in charge of making that decision so that that cap would be softened again.
Brad, what was Robin Hayes' and the party's role in this?
Well, the contributions were going from Lindbergh to the party and then directed to individual campaign entities, whether it was the lieutenant governor, whether it was other campaign apparatuses within the Republican Party. Clearly, Mike Causey, the Commissioner of Insurance here, is wearing the white hat. He may have been wearing a wire. You read the indictment.
He was wearing a wire.
It clearly looks like the phones were tapped and there was wire video and perhaps audio conversations recorded.
Shouldn't this restore some confidence of people in the political system? I mean, as bad as this is, at least it says to us that some of our political
leadership
elected officials
are willing to do the right thing.
Exactly.
And I think that's an important step. I really do.
Well, there are two things to think about. We've already talked about Mike Causey, but also notice that there was an indictment of a sitting chairman of the North Carolina Republican Party by a federal government run by President Trump. I mean, that we certainly wouldn't have wanted it to go the other way, where the law enforcement apparatus under the direction of one party or the other tends to go soft.
I would say this too, Tom. I've known Robin Hayes since 1983. And Robin Hayes, the man that I know, is one of honor, character, and integrity. A very good man.
I was amazed when I read this.
And he served the state well in the state house, in the United States Congress, even as the GOP party chair. So I don't think there was any malice or criminal intent with Robin with what he did.
May not have been criminal intent, but there was criminal action.
Well, I don't know. If you read the indictment, I don't know how you could say there wasn't intent in what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. This is a grown-up man who's been in politics for a long time. And the thing I'm concerned about is this. It doesn't reaffirm my faith in politics. It shows me that our rules are broken. It shows me that
I'll buy that.
We have got to do something so we can't be laundering cash through political parties. And we ought to go back to the system of public financing for things like the insurance commissioner that nobody else cares about except for the industry.
Let's delve into this a little bit more, Tamara. Here's the issue here. He was going to make a $500,000 contribution to the state Republican Party. No problem with that, legally. However, he then turned around and said, I want $110,000 of that earmarked for Mike Causey. That's a legal problem, is it not?
It is, and what they were doing is illegal. It's illegal to do those things. It's not that we need more laws. We need people to stand up, be good leaders, for us to have zero tolerance for this kind of behavior. Expect more of our leaders. Graft and corruption and fraud are illegal. All these actions are illegal. Just because you separate them into different steps does not make it all the more legal.
Now, he was an equal opportunity donor from the standpoint. He was also giving to the Democratic Party in North Carolina, correct?
Yes. I don't know that you would say equal opportunity, but there was certainly substantial, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
$500,000.
And also to candidates, including mayoral candidates, legislative candidates. And we should also know, we're talking about North Carolina for obvious reasons. This is also a big political scandal potentially in Florida, where he was one of the largest donors in Florida, playing a little bit of both sides, perhaps other states. This is a multi-state issue. When you separate the question about regulatory decisions by the North Carolina Department of Insurance and get into his broader business empire, this is a national story with lots of states involved.
Rob, Mike Causey says that we can expect some further indictments.
Or he said it could be, yeah. I mean,
well, he said we could expect.
I think we all kind of have a feeling.
Any ideas who? I mean, you know, Wayne Goodwin's gotten wrapped up in all of this stuff, and the state Democratic Party is involved in it.
I mean, there's a lot of people.
Any speculation?
There's a lot of people with some explaining to do. Goodwin is clearly one of them.
Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
exactly. Congressman Mark Walker, who keeps being referenced as public official A in the indictment. Now, you know, maybe he wasn't in a position to really interfere here, but he clearly did take some action. He got cash contributed to him by Lindbergh. I think a lot of us are kind of curious as to what Dallas Woodhouse knew and when did he know it?
Yeah, his name has been mentioned too. How's this going to affect this year's special elections, particularly given the fact that we've just finished all of these Board of Elections hearings, and we know that there was fraud conducted on absentee ballots in the 9th Congressional District.
I would say this, you know, the Republicans had a stick that they beat the Democrats with in 2003 and 2006. Well, the Democrats now have a similar stick.
Interesting. Let's go around the table real quickly to close out this subject. We talked about reforms are needed. What reforms would you institute, John Hood?
Well, I don't think you can stop big money from influencing some of these electoral outcomes. They can do independent expenditures. You can't shut them up because that's the First Amendment.
Now, the IEIs are federal law, correct?
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is insurance companies compete with each other. They care about the regulatory decisions. They will always spend money. My view is enforce the law. It's not obvious to me you need significantly
Tamara, that's what you
That's my point. Enforce the law, and we need leaders who
you
beyond,
don't think we need
reproach.
any more revision?
We need to enforce the law that we have.
Brad?
Well, I think you need to redo Citizens United and eliminate the multi-million dollar
that's a
contribution.
Washington issue.
It is a Washington issue, but the ruling at the federal level set forth the independent expenditures. If you want to clean it up, let's go back and look at how we regulate campaign contributions.
Rob, you've talked about public financing of campaigns. Any other reforms?
The law has changed a lot, so public financing may not be quite the magic bullet that it was a few years ago, but I still think that it made sense for the insurance commissioner. I think there are other reforms. I think the system that allows money to be laundered through parties just invites this kind of corruption, and it's going to be impossible to police unless we try some new efforts to limit it.
Well, you talk about North Carolina. North Carolina law prohibits a woman from having an abortion after the 20th week of pregnancy, but a federal judge has ruled that law is unconstitutional. Passed in 2015, the law was immediately challenged by ACLU and others. Since lawyers for the legislature were in Washington arguing for our state's gerrymandering lawsuit, Judge William Osteen gave them 60 days to either pass a new abortion law or appeal his verdict. Tamara, Barringer, you were in the legislature when this law was originally passed. What's your opinion of Osteen's verdict?
Well, I don't know what the legislature is going to do, but they have an opportunity to revisit it. But what I can tell you is that it's no secret that I'm pro-life. And with whatever changes they make with abortion in the General Assembly, they have our colleagues there need to continue to reform foster care and the safety nets for these children that are coming into families where they're not wanted.
John, what's the magic about 20 weeks? I mean, other states have made this same threshold of after 20 weeks you can't have. I mean, are most women even aware they're 20 weeks pregnant?
Are you kidding?
Are they?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
All right.
20 weeks is pretty
Well, I've
far
never
along.
been one, so I don't know.
Todd, the basic problem here is not the law. For those who think that we should have a permissive system for late-term abortions, the system, the problem they've got is ultrasound and just sort of the direction that the culture is going. When you talk about someone who had a miscarriage, you don't say that they lost, a fertilized zygote. You say they lost a baby. At some point, we're going to have a rational approach to this system. I think Osteen may have been applying the Supreme Court precedent in an appropriate way, but I think the Supreme Court precedent about mid and late term abortion is going to have to adjust to reality.
Not only the Supreme Court verdict on this, but there's several state laws. I mean, Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, Mississippi, North Dakota, Utah, all had 20 weeks and they've all been struck down.
They're unconstitutional because the Supreme Court very clearly decided in Roe versus Wade, and it's never been changed, that pre-viability abortions are lawful in this country, and it is between the woman and her doctor. 20 weeks is not a point of viability. It's just a random number that's been picked by opponents of abortion. The law still remains clear. Osteen is a conservative Republican and judge. He was simply applying the law as it's been established by Roe versus Wade, and it needs to remain that way. And this is a private decision between a woman and her doctor, a sacred, really, relationship, and the state doesn't need to be getting involved with it.
What really amazes me about this argument, too, and I applaud Tamara bringing up the need to clean up and invest in foster care. My office is across from a clinic, and people are there every single day protesting. And it's amazing to me that these same people will oppose investment in a welfare system that will help take care of these children. So I'm pro-choice. I don't believe that it should be used as a matter of birth control, but I do believe that it is necessary and women should have that choice.
Tamara, I want to go back to you for a second. Let's chase this rabbit down the hole of saying that the legislature decides they're going to appeal this decision. Okay. How effective is this appeal going to be based on the Supreme Court rulings and other court rulings?
Well, first I would like to address Brad's comment. I have not found that people are not willing to invest in the foster care system and the supports to help these children once they're here, and we need to do more of it. But I disagree. I think that this is a matter of interpretation. I think that I think that if it is appealed as opposed to revised, we will see a vigorous court battle.
Okay, so let's assume that they're not going to appeal. They're going to pass a new law. What's it going to take, John? What are they going to have to do?
I think that there will be continuous attempts by pro-life lawmakers across the country to at least try to restrict these mid and late term abortions that are, the vast majority of Americans do not believe they should be legal because they essentially equate it with infanticide. It is not a large percentage of all abortions, but it is a class of abortions that is very difficult to defend.
All right, I'm not sure you answered my question though. What are they going to? What could they do?
They can try, but I think John's actually right. Lots of anti-choice lawmakers, pro-life lawmakers across the country are going to continue to try to roll back Roe versus Wade. They're hoping that the Supreme Court will reverse it at some point, but it remains the law. It remains the constitutional standard we have to apply, and so it will be futile. We'll be wasting more state money on expensive lawsuits.
You raised the cogent point, though, so far as appeal is concerned. The nature and the flavor of the Supreme Court is now changed. This could be a pretty serious challenge to Roe v. Wade.
Well, I think that it could, and we're going to have to see how that's litigated out. Again, my point is on the social conservative side, you look at what members of Congress are doing when it comes to aid to families with dependent children and the Medicaid budget that was proposed by President Trump, and I would submit to you that that's not necessarily helping those ladies who need help down at the bottom.
I'm going to switch gears here. Following last November's elections, a number of sheriffs announced they would no longer cooperate with ICE on the 287G program of detaining immigrants. A new bill, which Speaker Tim Moore says targets sanctuary sheriffs, would fine the counties $25,000 a day if they refuse to honor detention requests from ICE. Now, proponents of this law say the sheriffs are breaking the law if they refuse to cooperate with the program. Opponents, including some sheriffs, says this program carries no legal force, doesn't authorize state and local officials to hold anyone because it is not an arrest warrant, nor provide probable cause. Rob Schofield, you're one of the lawyers on this panel this week. This bill's become very contentious and very politically polarizing. Tell us where it stands and what you predict is going to happen.
I think it was designed to be contentious and polarizing. I think that's what it's about. This is Trump politics. That's what the bill is, from where it springs. It's about a sort of anti-immigrant, us against the world approach to politics. It's passed the House of Representatives. I don't think it will become law. I'm not sure what will happen in the Senate. I think there's some resistance to the notion. The reason the Sheriff's Association is against it is because it's bad law enforcement. They realize that if you send this message that we're going to round up innocent people, which is what happens with 287G quite frequently, people stop reporting crimes. It hurts law enforcement.
That's not the case at all, Rob. Yes, I don't know where you think that the law enforcement's out rounding up people.
It's happened a lot with 287G.
In Wake County, in Wake County, they are processed. They are charged with the crime that an officer sees them. For example, a DWI. They bring them into the process, go through the breathalyzer, then they're introduced into the jail. And as a part of the interview process, they were criminal background check through 287G.
It's the cooperation with ICE that has been rounding up innocent people. We know that's been happening in some of these roundups.
Innocent people.
Of course they are, John. It happened in a raid just last month in Sanford.
That is a false statement.
It is not a false statement.
They arrest people for other crimes.
But people are. We had a big massive bust at a Sanford
that was an ICE action.
That was an ICE action, right? Exactly.
That's not a 287G.
But people understand. The people understand that the cooperation with ICE is causing people
put it another way. Let's put it another way. Unless there is an attempt, a serious attempt by federal, state, and local authorities to, when someone is arrested for something else, to deport them if they're illegal immigrants, we will never reform immigration policy, ever, because Americans will never accept people who have been illegal immigrants who then
Tamara,
commit crimes.
How do you justify the fact that the sheriffs are saying, and by the way, the Sheriff's Association is opposed to this.
That's right.
I understand.
How do you justify the fact the sheriffs are saying, hey, this isn't legal? It doesn't carry any power of probable cause. This is not an arrest warrant. 287G is not an arrest warrant. And if we detain these people, we are subject to civil lawsuits under the Fourth Amendment.
I disagree. I think they're playing to their base. And this is a public policy matter. It's about rule of law. It's about being able to deport people who have committed crimes with probable cause.
This is a voluntary program. As Becky Gray from the Locke Foundation and I were discussing this on the radio last week, she pointed out that these sheriffs were elected on a platform of disengaging from 287G. And she said, let's see how it goes. That's how they were elected. That's what the voters wanted. This is a party, the Republican Party, that talks about local control. Let's have the local sheriffs have some control.
Good question. You're the political consultant here. Is that what the voters wanted? That's what a lot of these sheriffs ran on.
Well,
but is in fact that did the voters really have any interest in this?
Yeah, that's a debatable point. More wave-oriented last year than perhaps the 287G issue. I know in Wake County that under Donnie Harrison's leadership, it was not an intensive effort to go out and specifically arrest immigrant citizens or residents in Wake County. They were checking their criminal background through 287 once they had already been arrested, whether it was domestic abuse or whether it was DWI, whether it was some other misdemeanor or even a felony. So,
would you acknowledge that there have been some cases where ICE did get a little heavy-handed in some of their detention?
Oh, I think they have, and that's part of Trump's enforcement efforts. But to say that the 287G sheriffs were participating in roundups with them, that's just not the case.
You know, I'm sorry, one last point. In Nevada, they're actually considering legislation that's going the other way. They're actually considering legislation that would require their local departments that participate in the 287G program to provide data and statistics to the state about who these people are, what the demographics look like, what's the actual end result of it all. That might be a better approach for us than trying to force local sheriffs to do something they don't want to do.
John, this is part and parcel, you alluded to this, this is part and parcel of the fact that our nation does not have clearly defined, well-defined immigration policies. And we're paying for it in so many ways, aren't we?
Absolutely. And any solution that is going to allow more legal immigration, which I'm in favor of, is going to have a sensible system for picking up criminals who are also illegal immigrants and deporting them. If we can't do that, then the system will never be reformed, and what we'll end up with is a tougher, more Trump-like immigration policy, which is what has happened. The roundup happened because they stopped doing this.
So, Tamara, they passed this bill, HB 370. They passed this HB 370 in the House. It's going over to the Senate now. Is it going to pass?
Oh, I can't predict what the Senate will do, but I hope it does.
But if it does pass the Senate, the
so then it's going to go to court.
Well, it'll be vetoed.
It'll be vetoed.
It won't
Then they'd have to have a
It'll be
supermajority.
It's not going to become law.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
You're predicting it never will?
Right.
Because they don't have the votes to overturn?
I think that's right.
They can't override the governor's veto.
That's probably right.
Interesting. Well, that may be the first time we see that in action this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think John brings a much broader point, Tom. We've got to we as a nation have to address immigration reform.
We're all agreed there.
All right. Now time for the program to ask the panelists to tell us something we don't know. John Hood.
North Carolina has increased significantly in the last 6 or 7 years its spending on road construction and particularly road maintenance, and you can see it in the data. We're now about in the mid-teens when it comes to road quality across all the categories. Unfortunately, that's not where we need to be. We need to be in the top 10. Florida, Tennessee, some of our regional competitors are doing better. They're not higher tax states, they're just spending their dollars more effectively.
Tamara Barringer, tell us something we don't know.
If the Republicans lose the 9th District special election for the congressional seat, expect Robert Pittenger to file in December to take back that seat.
Really?
That's what I think.
Interesting. Heard it here first. Brad Crone, tell us something we don't know.
Well, Tom, interesting fight brewing in the western part of the state between the Cherokee Nation and the Catawba Nation over the casino on I-85. it is a huge economic impact argument for the Cherokee. They had a good week in the legislature this week. There was legislation.
They're going to get horse racing.
They're going to allow sports bet too.
Yeah. Rob.
A lot of publicity this week about Superintendent Mark Johnson proposing to give each teacher in the state $400 to spend on school supplies.
Right.
What wasn't as well publicized the fact that they were going to get the money by taking it out of the budgets of the local school districts, which have already been cut 55% over the last decade for this item.
I've got one real quick. For those of you who go to our website, ncspin.com, you're going to see a brand new look starting Tuesday. It's going to have the same content. Your favorite panelists are going to be there, but a new look. We want to hear what you think about it. Well, you've heard our spin on the issues of the day. To stay informed all during the week, sign up for our free weekly email newsletter, give your feedback, and read my spin column. Visit our website, ncspin.com, or catch NC Spin on Facebook, and join us next week when we'll have more balanced debate for the Old North State. Until then, stay informed and watch out for the spin.
Life's busy, but you're in control. As an electric cooperative member, you have access to lots of tools to help manage your home energy use and budget, so you can focus on what's most important.
Partners for Innovation in Healthcare. We're supporting common sense solutions for North Carolina's healthcare delivery system, promoting access, affordability, quality care, and innovation. Visit us on the web at pihc.info.
From treating the newest member of your family to helping a loved one make end-of-life decisions, your family physician is with you every step, for every stage of life, for every member of your family. Despite a healthcare landscape fraught with potential landmines, family physicians across North Carolina are providing you a lifetime of committed, dependable medical care. Family Physicians, your trusted healthcare advisor for life.
NC Spin is brought to you in part by the North Carolina Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau and Agriculture. We keep North Carolina growing.
North Carolina Channel is made possible by the financial contributions of viewers like you who support the UNC TV network.